Step onto any industrial job site in the universe and you'll likely find something made by Greycat. Be it a pyro multi-tool safely slicing through metal or a heavy-duty suit protecting a miner against falling debris, the company's extensive line of industrial equipment and armor make it one of the most respected brand names around. Greycat has remained a UEE staple for centuries thanks to their streamlined yet innovative designs, exacting safety standards, and a diverse product line. Similar to RSI, Shubin, and Tarsus, the company's long history makes it a corporate cornerstone of the modern UEE. While Greycat experienced success early on, it only really became a household name after releasing the Personal Transport Vehicle, PTV for short, centuries after development of the company. These days, it's hard to imagine the Empire without the Greycat PTVs buzzing across expansive hangars, or their massive mining bots extracting ore from asteroids. Most analysts credit Greycat's growth into a manufacturing empire to shrewd managerial moves made by the company's founding family, the Brassards. However, a growing number of historians believe that much of the company's success can be attributed to Ruben Pardue, the until recently forgotten engineer responsible for designing and developing some of Greycat's most important products. Neither Pardue nor the Brassards alone could have made Greycat what it is today, but together their combined vision and ambition created a company that has become an essential part of the empire. Ruben Pardue first made a name for himself while attending the University of Rhetor. After publishing his graduate dissertation, exploring future applications of geohacking tech, he attracted the attention of Titania Terraforming. The company courted the ambitious young engineer to aid their efforts in terraforming Uriel, an experimental undertaking to raise the planet's core temperature to compensate for lack of heat generated by the Oberon system's neutron star. Pardue was undaunted by the immense task. In fact, he jumped at the chance to try and crack the riddle of fixing a planet. Pardue quickly distinguished himself as an adept problem solver with a caustic tongue. Many who worked with Pardue bristled at his unchecked arrogance, but never questioned his competence and dedication to the project. He rocketed through the ranks and was soon asked to lead the construction of a network of tunnels under the planet's surface to house another team's experimental thermal device. Pardue spent months in the tunnels, obsessing over every last detail. In his downtime, he sketched ideas for new equipment that would have been useful in his operations. These included initial designs for what would eventually become the Pyro multi-tool. Yet these sketches wouldn't be realized for years due to a tragedy that changed the trajectory of Pardue's life and career forever. On May 23, 2381, a section of the underground operations hub collapsed, tragically killing 37 and injuring dozens more. Trapped in a connecting tunnel, rescuers barely made it to Pardue in time to save his life. Unfortunately, his dominant left arm required amputation above the elbow. With Titania obliged to cover medical costs, Pardue could have had the finest prosthetics available at the time, but he refused. A choice Pardue's biographer, Jing Fermi, believes was self-imposed penance for his failure to prevent the catastrophe. Pardue quietly left the company after the accident. Titania investigated the incident, but never publicly released their report. The tragedy was yet another setback to the grand plan of terraforming Uriel. The company dissolved years later after deeming their attempt to manipulate the core temperature an utter failure. Upon hearing that Pardue had left Titania, former university classmate Pippa Brassard reached out and offered him a job. Her family owned a small yet respectable industrial goods manufacturing base, and she was eager to put her stamp on the brand by infusing it with new ideas. Though never officially declared responsible, Pardew's tarnished reputation after the accident had left him with not many other options, and so he agreed to the comparatively low salary offered by Brassard. A mere 3 months after the collapse, Pardew began his career at Greycat. In 2337, Otis Brassard founded Greycat Industrial, with the goal of producing and supplying safety equipment to miners seeking their fortune among the stars. The company's moniker was a nod to the family's nickname for Otis, whose hair unexpectedly turned gray when he was still in his 20s. By mid-24th century, Greycat was manufacturing a number of well-regarded and affordable products for their Mars headquarters. It was successful, but their market presence was minimal. When Otis's daughter, Pippa, took control of the company in 2380, her ascendance coincided with the creation of the United Nations of Earth, UNE for short, and the completion of terraforming projects in the Croshaw system. Inspired by the expansionist spirit, Pippa's first act as Greycat CEO was to open their second manufacturing facility on Angeli in the Croshaw system, away from the watchful eye of her father, who still maintained control of the board. Pippa hired Pardew to expand Greycat's product line. Pardew's first design was a line of industrial armor, incorporating new safety standards and advanced alloy plating that would have been critical to helping workers in the Uriel tunnel collapse. The Aril industrial armor became a huge success. Its clean, functional design would come to set the standard for Greycat products going forward. Today, Aril armor remains a bestseller for Greycat, with only minimal changes made to Pardew's classic concept. Inspired by Aril's success, Pippa asked Pardew to head up Greycat's engineering department, but he politely declined. Pardew refused any promotions for the remainder of his career, avoiding all managerial positions so he could simply focus on building. This also ensured that every one of his designs would be thoroughly vetted and implemented by others. While his vision and style are now synonymous with Greycat, his preference for the drafting table over the boardroom table meant his influence was not well known until the release of Jing Fermi's biography, Hidden Design, in the early 30th century. The book became a bestseller by juxtaposing Pardew's incredibly fertile yet uncelebrated professional career at Greycat with tumultuous personal life, which the events on Uriel haunted him until his death in 2458. Meanwhile, Pippa discovered that expanding Greycat's influence and production pipeline wasn't without problems. The popularity of the Pyro multi-tool upon its release so overwhelmed the company's supply chain that backlog kept most customers waiting for months on their orders. This gave competitors time to design and sell cheap knockoffs. The ongoing battle with copycats and counterfeiters would consume a significant amount of company resources for centuries. When profits plateaued in the early 27th century, CEO Liana Brassard implemented a controversial plan to overhaul their production chain in an attempt to fix the issues that plagued them. The ultimate goal was to have a manufacturing facility in every UEE system. Since building and managing all these new plants would be costly and time-consuming, Liana outsourced most of the work to regional manufacturers. This turned out to be a costly miscalculation. Many of the regional plants either chose to ignore or failed to meet the strict standards set by Greycat headquarters. To make matters worse, some of those unreliable third parties leaked or outright sold design specs to counterfeiters. Soon, most knockoffs carried the exact same color scheme and design specifications as the real thing. Many of them even claimed to be made by Greycat Industries, not Greycat Industrial, a distinction lost on many casual consumers. The fallout from this strategic blunder harmed Greycat's bottom line and led to a power struggle within the Brassard's family for control of the company. When the dust settled, Liana became the only Greycat CEO to ever be ousted. Her brother, Marcel, became CEO and embarked on an equally ambitious plan of his own. As CEO, Marcel Brassard enacted a two-pronged plan to keep Greycat solvent. He aggressively lobbied the UEE to clamp down on the counterfeiters, even with eventual passage of a bill that introduced harsher penalties for those convicted. Government intervention, though, could only go so far. Documents would later reveal that Marcel also contracted private security forces to find counterfeiters and convince them by any means necessary to shutter their operations. However, what was considered Marcel's most daring gamble would come with expanding Greycat's product line. Up until the early 27th century, the company made hand tools, safety devices, and industrial armor, products that could be easily copied. To insulate the company's sales, Marcel argued that Greycat should make big-ticket items that could be harder to counterfeit. Many were skeptical and fretted over the upfront cost, but undaunted, Marcel pushed the plan forward. Marcel knew the success of the plan hinged on the products, so he dug through the company's archives and uncovered old Pardue designs that were explored but not implemented. Among the designs Marcel moved into production were the PTV buggy, massive Sindus mining bot, and their series of mining lasers along with tractor beams. While most of their larger industrial devices took time to turn a profit, the buggy proved to be more popular than expected. Pardue initially designed the vehicle to navigate cramped mining tunnels, but Greycat employees discovered that early test models were perfect for cruising across the expansive factory floor where the buggies were made. After a few minor changes to Pardue's design, like removing the heavy protective roof, the purely industrial vehicle was transitioned to be more general purpose, allowing the PTV to be marketed to a larger audience. It has since become ubiquitous across the UEE. Marcel's controversial but inspired leadership finally made Greycat a household name and ensured that the company would remain strong for centuries. He told the Terra Gazette that Greycat needed to reinvent itself to remain relevant. Indeed, doing so without losing one's identity or alienating loyal customers was an impressive feat. Greycat pulled it off because it combined the Brassard's focus, dedication to quality, and daring to try something new with the strong yet distinct design stylings of Ruben Pardue. Simply, Greycat became a household name because of their commitment to making the right business choices, not just the easy ones. Okay, that was Portfolio Greycat Industrial, and this is from July 15th, 2020. That's the com link. It was originally in a jump point before that, from December 12th, 2018. I wanted to thank the CIG lore team for another great text here. Great to flesh things out. This is another one of my lore videos that I'm kind of curating based on the content. In this case, it covered the PTV. Sorry, it doesn't cover the STV and the other. Hopefully the utility one that's coming up too. They teased just recently. But this should be really fun. The Greycat was one of the first vehicles I had in the game, and I can remember driving it around my hangar and getting it stuck under my taily wing and just having a great time driving it around. And then later on, the excitement of having the ramps that you could jump off of and hit like the cargo containers like they were pins. I have a great affection for the Greycat. I don't think it should be cost anywhere near as much as what it's at. I think it's like 15 USD now. Yeah, it's still a great vehicle, and I have a soft spot in my heart for it. And it's also on the referral list. So if you ever wondered like how to get one reasonably, that might be a way to slowly generate a couple referrals and bam, get yourself a Greycat. I think it's like 5 referrals or something like that. But anyway, back to the topic here. Greycat Industrial is an amazing company, and I can't think of many people that have anything nasty or like an anti feeling against Greycat. It's just as this article says, it's ubiquitous. When you think industrial, you think Greycat. Yes, you can also think of Argo. You can also think of the wonderful other um, inspirations that you could think of. But when I think of a vehicle, I think Greycat. I think PTV. And I think that that is like the bare minimum, the absolute bare minimum. And continuing into the ROC series of vehicles that are very useful and can make you serious UEC mining, and will continue to, I think, with more cave developments and underground stuff coming up. I think the Greycat's got a bright future in the game, both in players' hangars and also as a buying game, which is probably a better option for vehicles to begin with. But yeah, really cool stuff. Greycat is, I think, a little dated in this article. It's just going to have to be updated probably in the future. I hope that the lore team will go back to these portfolios and mention the new vehicles like the STV, UTV, or whatever they call the utility version they teased that's going to be up next. The Greycat, we have an upgraded tractor beam that's eventually going to be in our hands. If that's under the Greycat moniker, that will also need to all be thought about there. So where does this leave us in this story? Well, I think we're at the end here. The Greycat company is ubiquitous, and it's also something that's unique. I thought it was interesting that a lot of these stories usually have a sad turn that causes the company to kind of step up. And like many good, stories, unfortunately, there's a reason. The ghost that Pardue is being chased by throughout his life, unfortunately, just don't go away. But his dedication to the company, safety standards, and developing better equipment to make sure it doesn't happen again, or at the very least, people are better equipped for the dangers of being in the mines and on the industrial job sites, is certainly noble. And the Broussard family, you can paint it both ways. I think this article went out of its way to stress that he got paid very little. But then it goes on to say, oh yeah, and he didn't want to be a boss. So because he wouldn't step up, he just wanted to stay back engineering all the different parts and pieces and make sure that the disaster never happened again, or at the very least, people were better equipped for those type of things. I think works both ways here. So I'm not going to lay at the feet at the Broussard's family that they're the worst thing ever. This isn't a Mazer situation, for sure. And when we talk about these larger companies, a lot of them are founded centuries ago. So that's another thing that I think the lore team is very strong at. But no matter how strong you are at these things, summarizing 100 years of history in 4 paragraphs, then another 5 paragraphs, and some of these paragraphs have 2 sentences, is difficult. And I compliment them that they are able to summarize so well the points that need to be on the list here to flesh out the company. But it would be nice to see more for modern day Greycat developing these new products and how they came to those conclusions. How did they take Broussard's vision and Pardue's designs and move them into modern day and develop all these new products? It would be really interesting to hear the changes of the company. Are there new people at play in the background that are getting these things done? And also the counterfeiting story is very interesting. I would not be shocked if there are basically smuggling operations that players will go on. And if you pop those crates open, once in a while, instead of some kind of scary drug or delivering weapons to Loreville where they don't want citizens to have weapons, instead, it's literally just a bunch of counterfeit multi-tools. That would be delightful if once in a while it's just goofy things like that. So yeah, more lore to flesh out the weird and wonderful universe we all want to be in. And very excited for IAE if you're hearing this beforehand. Looking forward to it, and hopefully we can keep fleshing this out. And I'm very excited as well for the race courses that are coming in. It's not a coincidence I chose Greycat for this video. And yes, some of this is dated in this video, as I noted, but a lot of it is evergreen. The history of the company is very, very relevant. All right, that's all I got for tonight. All y'all fly safe.
Greycat Industrial holds the distinction of having the most ever vehicles at a single IAE, when in 2926, a 1,000 buggy parade was driven through the streets of Severus. The highlight was when all of the buggies sounded their horns together to play a rendition of the Imperial Anthem.